Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Alan, and today we are going to talk about some of the Canadian provinces. I have already done a number of videos on the flags and a bit of history on American states. So if you want to look those up, you can. Um, let's see, but I've been working on national information, but I thought it would be only fair to work on the Canadian provinces. So, that said, I went ahead and started on um making these videos. This is the first one. It'll give us a look at the first five provinces with a bit of historical information on Canada itself. Um, and of course, like the states, I'll go over the flags and everything as well. But as always, I have my notebook, have my information down, ready to well, to access it via notes. My memory isn't all that great a lot of the time, and so yeah, have to maintain um, my notes. With that said, let's jump into it. All right. In 1534 is where we're going to start out. Frenchman Jacques Cartier, and let me apologize beforehand, I didn't take French. I studied several years of Spanish, a year of Japanese, part of a semester of Latin, but um, yeah, I'm not well versed in French, so if I do butcher these, I apologize, as well as any Native American names, but I will try my best to properly pronounce them. But anyway, 1534, Frenchman Jacques Cartier explored the Gulf of St. Lawrence and claimed its shoreline for the French crown. Um, the very next year, he traveled along the St. Lawrence River, visiting the sites of modern Quebec and Montreal. Liking Cartier's reports and wanting a piece of the New World that Spain already had a foothold in, um, France's king um, went ahead and had a settlement set up, which was finally established in 1541. And it was just northwest of modern-day Quebec, under the command of Jean-François de la Roque de Roberval. That's a mouthful. And the settlement was named Charlesbourg Royal. So the French, trying to get a piece of the New World action that Spain had already, well, Spain and Portugal, as we know by the Treaty of Tordesillas. Again, I may be remembering that wrong. Anyway, it split South America between Spain and Portugal. And so France wanted a piece of this New World action, and Jacques Cartier, coming in through the St. Lawrence Gulf and down the St. Lawrence River, um, provided entrance into Acadia and ultimately New France. In 1604, Samuel de Champlain, under Pierre de Gouin de Mont, again, I'm probably butchering the name, but okay. Sought to found Acadia on Doche Island in the St. Croix River. However, it proved an unsuitable location, and in 1605, the colony was moved across the Bay of Fundy to Port Royal, modern-day Annapolis Royal in Nova Scotia. With Jamestown founded in 1607, the English founded colonies in modern-day Newfoundland. This caused a number of conflicts between Britain and Britain and France in the years to come, namely Queen Anne's War, 1702 to 1713, the War of Spanish Succession, and King George's War, 1744 to 1748, and ultimately led to the French and Indian War, or as it's known elsewhere, the 7 Years' War, which was from 1756 to 1763. And for those kind of wondering, the 7 Years' War was also kind of the forerunner to the American Revolution in the lower colonies, because the impact the war had on Britain. They said, well, we've got to recoup some of our losses. And thus we had the Stamp Act, the Intolerable Acts, yeah. And eventually fueled revolution among the southern colonies. But let's not get too far off topic. Um, England would win, gaining the region formerly known as New France and naming it Quebec. Political unrest developed in Upper and Lower Canada, Quebec, and Ontario soon after the War of 1812. In, in, in 1812. In 1837 to 1838, rebellions happened but were ultimately squashed by Britain. So yeah. Um, the Industrial Revolution would push Britain away from a colonial mode, and by 1855 they would uh, grant the colonies of British North America um, self-government. So by 1855, Canada had its ability to govern itself, protect itself, but it was still considered a part of the crown. So yeah. Um, let's see. On October the 10th, 1864, an agreement was reached to establish a general federal union. Um, that agreement was reached, and Britain quickly approved, allowing the colonies to again govern themselves and freeing them from the obligations to defend, freeing Britain from the obligations to defend them um, from inland um, from Quebec. So, like I was saying, Canada was now free to govern itself, to protect itself. It kind of freed up Britain not to have to worry about it, but it still owned the territory. So, yeah. Um, on July the 1st, 1867, the three colonies um, of Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and the Canadas were united as four provinces. So they kind of existed separately, even though they were all considered territory. But they were named, of course, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Quebec, and Ontario under the Dominion of Canada. So that's what they are to this day. Though it had self-rule, Canada was still under British rule until 1931, when the Statute of Westminster was passed, granting Canada its sovereignty. So now it was considered independent. So like I said, it could it had all the trappings of a free country, just considered still part of the British Crown. So, but in 31, the Statute of Westminster granted Canada its sovereignty, its full independence. But that's a kind of a quick synopsis of Canadian history. So let's get into the provinces. The first one we're going to talk about is the province of Ontario. Its capital and largest city is Toronto. So Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And it entered the Canadian Confederation on July the 1st, 1867. So like I said, the four original provinces, Ontario being one of them. And modern Ontario is also the most populous province in Canada at over 13 million people. So it's pretty decent size, the most populous of the Canadian provinces. So if you want to travel into Canada and meet a lot of new people, go to Toronto, Ontario. It's supposedly a very nice city. So, never been out of the country myself, but wouldn't mind visiting Toronto. Now, it is bordered by Manitoba to the west, Quebec to the east, and New York, Michigan, Minnesota, and the Great Lakes to the south. Kind of give you an idea of where it sets on the North American continent. The natives in the region were the Ojibwa, the Odawa, the Potawatomi, the Algonquin, the Mississauga, the Haudenosaunee, the Neutral, the Wendat, the Cree, the Ojibwe, and Métis, I believe, or Métis, if I'm getting that information correct. It gets its name from Lake Ontario, or Ontario, which in Huron or Wyandot means Great Lake, or it could be derived from Scandario, which is an Iroquoian word for beautiful water. And as we've already discussed, it was originally part of It was originally part of the French colony in North America of New France, where some French is still spoken, along with a number of other languages. Like I said, it's a very especially in Toronto, it's a very metropolitan region. So, um, it's one of the four original provinces to enter the constitutional, the I cannot speak. One of the four original provinces to enter the Canadian Confederation. Now, let's discuss the flag. What I was able to find looks like a red flag. In the upper left-hand corner is a Union Jack, and in the center right, it looks like a crest of three maple leaves in kind of a goldish color on green with a red cross flag with a white background sitting above it, and that is the flag of Ontario. Now, with that said, let's proceed to talking about Quebec. Its capital city is Quebec City, although the largest city is Montreal. It entered the Canadian Confederation on July the 1st, 1867, and modern Quebec is the second most populous province at over 8 million people. However, it is the largest province in land size and is bordered by Ontario, New Brunswick, and Newfoundland, as well as the American states of Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, and New York. So, kind of give you an idea of where it sits. Although that still may not help you to know what it's bordered by, but just letting you know anyway. Now, natives in the region were the Algonquin, the Iroquois, the Inuit. Those were the most populous. However, there was also the Mohawk, the Abenaki, the Mi'kmaq, and the Cree. Now, the name Quebec comes from the Algonquin word Quebec, which means where the river narrows. Makes, a lot of sense. in the sense of the etymology. So, like Ontario, it was part of the French colony of New France and is known for the use of French Canadian. It's the province that probably uses the most French. Quebec holds on to a lot of its French heritage, especially the language. Again, like Ontario, it is one of Canada's four original provinces, and the flag is basically a white cross. If I've got the right picture, it's basically a white cross, and in each corner of the cross on blue backgrounds is, I don't know what that is actually called, but it's the little symbol. Won't, won't. Ah, I usually, if you know professional American football, I usually equate it to the New Orleans Saints. So I guess it has something to do with, again, I may be wrong, maybe equating too much into it, but I kind of equate it with the New Orleans Saints. So it may have something to do with Roman Catholicism. But anyway, that is the flag of Quebec. And that will bring us to, there it is. That'll bring us to the province of Nova Scotia. Its capital and largest city is Halifax. And it entered the Canadian Confederation on July the 1st, 1867. Modern Nova Scotia has just over 923,000 people. It is bordered by only New Brunswick to the west. So it's not really the easternmost part of Canada, but probably lower Canada, I would say, lower mainland Canada. It's the easternmost portion. Would probably be the best way to say it, I guess. The natives were the Megomic. That's the only ones I could find for the region. And the name Nova Scotia is Latin and means New Scotland. So I'm sure it was intended as a place for when Britain took over and named it Nova Scotia, as a place for the Scottish if they wanted to leave and go to the New World. It was originally, I believe, part of Acadia, which was a part of the Greater New France. But when Britain took over, I think it became, um, if I'm remembering the research right, it became Nova Scotia, and probably as a place for the Scottish. Um, yeah, originally known as the French colony of Acadia, um, the Acadians, um, aka the French population there, were forcibly expelled by Britain's takeover of the land in 1710. So, one of the easier to access points, like I said, being right on the coast, Nova Scotia saw consistent fighting among the British, the French, and even the Dutch throughout the 16 and 1700s, or the 17th and 18th century. If you're telling time in AD, always remember you got that first century 0 to 100, so gotta remember to add that extra century on top of it. These conflicts include battles as early as 1628, the Acadian Civil War of 1640 to 1645, King William's War, which took place 1688 to 1697, Queen Anne's War, which took place 1702 to 1713, Father Rail's War, 1722 to 1725, King George's War, 1744 to 1748, Father Lalutre's, anyway, Father Lalutre's War, 1749 to 1755, and the 7 Years' War, 1754 to 1763, which is usually known in the United States as the French and Indian War, the 7 Years' War. So, now the flag of Nova Scotia. The flag is a white background and has a blue X on the front, which I believe is very similar to Scotland's, if I'm not mistaken. Again, maybe wrong. I don't deny I make mistakes, so I may be wrong on that, but I believe that's what Scotland's is. And in the middle, it has a yellow crest with a red lion on it. So, that is the flag of Nova Scotia. Now, okay, let's talk about New Brunswick. That's our next province. The capital is in Fredericton, and its largest city is Moncton. And it entered into the Canadian Confederation on July the 1st, 1867, along with Nova Scotia, Ontario, and Quebec. Modern New Brunswick has just over 747,000 people. New Brunswick is bordered by Nova Scotia in the east, Quebec in the west, and the state of Maine in the south. So, again, to kind of give you an idea where it sits. Natives were the Megomic, the Malecite, and the Passamaquoddy. Yeah, the Passamaquoddy. Again, I apologize if I am butchering these words. There are difficulty, for me at least, speaking some of these Native American names, and again, as I mentioned, French names. Not to mention there are so many dialects within Native American tongues. So, where were we at? New Brunswick gets its name from George III, who was the Prince Elector of Brunswick-Lüneburg in what is modern-day Germany, but then at that point was known as the Holy Roman Empire. The region was partitioned from Nova Scotia in 1784, so it was originally a part of the territory of Nova Scotia. Along with Ontario, Quebec, and Nova Scotia. I keep repeating this, but it's good to know. New Brunswick was one of the 4 original provinces of the Canadian Confederation. Now, let's talk about the flag. The flag at the top has a red banner with a stretched out picture of a yellow lion. Beneath this, you have a picture of I guess it would be a galleon or a similar vessel. I mean, I see the crow's nest, the oars, the giant sail. Anyway, it's a giant ship of the era. And the background is yellow, and underneath it has a blue and white wavy lines to represent the sea. And that is the flag of New Brunswick. Now, let's open this last one here. Okay, The last one we're going to talk about today, we'll not go over them all today, but we're going over the first 5 to become a part of Canada. But anyway, number 5 is Manitoba. Its capital and the largest city is Winnipeg. I remember they used to have a hockey team there, the Winnipeg Jets. I don't know if they still do. It's been a while, but yeah, just a bit of information there for hockey fans. Let's see. It entered into the Canadian Confederation on July the 15th, 1870. So 3 years after the first 4 did. Manitoba became a part of Canada. Modern Manitoba has 1,278,365 people, at least according to the most recent census. And it is bordered by Saskatchewan in the west, Ontario to the east, Nunavut to the north, and North Dakota and Minnesota to the south. Now, natives of Manitoba were the Assiniboine, the Dakota, the Cree, the Dene, the Anishinaabe, and the Ojibwe. Okay, never mind. I was just thinking about a joke. Oji-san. There, it's done. Anyway, I don't know why that humors me so much, but yeah. Um, uh, what is Oji-san? Now I'm thinking about it. One-san would be older brother. What the hell is Oji-san? Never mind. Um, blah, 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 blah. The name Manitoba can be believed to be from the Cree word Manito Wapau, or the Ojibwa word Manaduba, both meaning the Straits of Manitou, the Great Spirit. So, a bit of the etymology of Manitoba. Now, let's talk about the flag. It's very similar to the flag of Ontario. Red background, Union Jack in the upper left-hand corner, and then in the right center you have the white banner with the red cross in it. underneath that banner, though, you have a green background with a bison in it. So, and that is the flag of Manitoba. And that is the first 5 provinces of Canada. Anyway, um, like always, educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. Um, it's always good to better yourself. Um, do love and appreciate you knuckleheads. Even, the ones I don't agree with. Except the annoying orange in the White House. So, because he's just. Anyway, take care of yourselves. That's the video for now. I'll see you again in the next video. But until then, later.